Following on from the contribution of my colleague, the Minister of Finance, Bill English, when he talks about the seeds of doubt growing in his heart, Mr Speaker, I want to speak about the kernel of confusion, Mr Speaker, because I listened to the debate with great interest yesterday, contributions from senior members of the Labor Party like Mr Goff and Mr Mallard and Mr Cunliffe. And then I came across a comment or a speech by one of these Labor members. And this member said in 2010, in a capital-constrained environment, and we've certainly got that at the moment, Mr Speaker, in a capital-constrained environment, Labor will better leverage the Crown's balance sheet in new and innovative ways. We need to unleash SOEs to create and grow them with private partners and private shareholders. Mr Speaker, that is exactly what National's proposing to do. That is what Mr Cunliffe came down and spoke about in the House yesterday opposing, and yet to his own party conference, I believe, he makes a speech like that advocating the mixed ownership model, Mr Speaker. But then I came across an even more interesting comment by a senior Labor minister back in 2006 on the Agenda programme. And this minister said, quote, something that we need to do, and something that I'm quite keen on, is that as the SOEs develop new businesses, especially those that are done in partnership with people in the private sector, we could well have floats of the subsidiaries so that they could be listed on the stock exchange. That would help give depth to our capital markets and get some transparency around these companies. I think that would help. Well, amazingly, that was said by the Honourable Trevor Mallard, the very member who spent hours in the House yesterday arguing against National's mixed ownership model, when in 2006 Mr Mallard said it was a good idea. So Mr Mallard speaks to both sides of his mouth, saying two different things, and it's no wonder we have in the House today an absolute kernel of confusion. Mr Speaker, the other comment that came through in the debate yesterday is that National needs a mandate. Well, I remind the Labor members that at the last election there were effectively two issues. One was the idea of the Labor Party to impose a capital gains tax, and the other issue that was voted on by people was National's absolute honesty to go to the electorate and say that if you vote National at the next election, at the last election, then we will deliver a mixed ownership model. And 47.5% of those that voted National, Mr Little. That's as close as a mandate you can ever get using a general election to deliver a mandate. So for Mr Little and Clayton Cosgrove and Chris Farfoy to argue that we're proceeding without a mandate is absolute rubbish, Mr Speaker. So I don't understand why the Greens are running a petition, and surprise, surprise, not only are they wasting their time with that referendum, but they're actually wasting taxpayers' money, Mr Speaker. Because we learned yesterday that they've actually got paid officials $75,000 of taxpayer money out there at places like the field days collecting signatures. The Green Party talks about all its support base. Its wide support base so loyal to the cause. If it is so loyal to the cause, Mr Speaker, why do they have to pay their people to stand outside the supermarkets collecting signatures on a referendum which, Mr Hague, will be meaningless, Mr Hague, absolutely meaningless? The final point I want to make, Mr Speaker, is why National is proposing the mixed ownership model. Because we have a lot of things as a government we need to spend capital on. We need to spend money in Christchurch helping the rebuild. In the Port Hills electorate alone, a number of schools have been completely destroyed. I want to see money invested in productivity like the water infrastructure, particularly in Canterbury, but not only Canterbury, Hawke's Bay and Otago. To develop those infrastructure, to develop those new schools, we need capital, and there's two ways to get it: borrow or rationalise your asset base.
The Honourable Manaia Mahuta.
Mr. Speaker, if it's not one thing